This video shows how to configure a master, remote, and slave configuration within xLights. So this is a HinksPix Pro version 2, which we're going to use here. You can see its IP address is 10.10.10.10. This is going to be our master controller. And of course, we have a supported SD card in here of 32 gigabytes or less. And we are going to configure that with xLights. Now, this video is not to cover one particular controller, just with one master. We have a separate video for that. So let's go ahead and switch over to xLights. So, as mentioned, we're going to do this in xLights. Of course, you do need to have your layout and your sequences completed before you proceed. Now also, of course, we do have in xLights these CPUs configured. So we have a version 1.2 and we have a version 3. And we also have an AlphaPix Flex, which is a non-HinksPix controller, which is going to receive data from a HinksPix Pro controller. A HinksPix Pro can send data to a non-HinksPix controller as long as it is E131. All right, so a few housekeeping pieces are, of course, with any sequence exported to the HinksPix Pro, we need to use xLights version 1, and we must have it in WAV file format if you're using audio. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and proceed. We're going to go to Tools, HinksPix Export, and first we're going to just kind of navigate around what we have in this dialog. Now this is the October 2025 version of xLights. Your version may differ. Now the first thing we want to do is check off which one of these has audio output. So we're going to make our master controller, this version 2 that we have here, with the audio. And you can see that we have the master and the remote. The master talks with the remote and tells it to stay in sync. This means that they must be able to talk with each other, and they do that over Ethernet. In this particular case, we have a controller here, 10.10.10.10, but we also have on the same network 10.10.10.1. These controllers must either via a wired, or you can use the wireless networks on the HinksPix Pros to link them together to keep in time. Now, the controller that is the master does not send any sequence data to a remote HinksPix. The only thing sent to the remote is a timing signal. The master will say, we're going to start the sequence, and the remote will respond and stay in sync. The master and remote, or if you have multiple remotes, will each have their own copy of the data on SD card. They do not have one consolidated sequence. And if you want to use an analogy, this is sort of like in an orchestra where each person playing a musical instrument has their own sheet music specific to the instrument they are playing. And the master, or the person running the orchestra, will keep them in time, and that is going to be our master. So, we're going to be focusing first on creating an SD card for the master. I'm going to go ahead and put a check mark in here. And again, we've selected master. And I'm going to go ahead and put an SD card into the computer on the D drive. Now, if your drives don't show up, go down here and click this refresh USB drives. And you should be able to see the drive letter right here. Now, if you're exporting several, you may need to do it multiple times because, again, each SD card is unique for the master and then each remote. We'll come back and talk about slaves in just a moment. Now, you must also have a playlist. So if you go over here, you'll click Add. I'm just going to create the default main. And we have a sequence here. And it has WAV file format for this audio. And we must have a schedule also. All right. At this point, we can now either upload to controller. Now, this is a slower process. You can upload over the network directly to the controller. And if you have 5 minutes worth of music, expect about 5 minutes worth of upload time. The faster way is to export directly to SD card, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and say export to SD card. It will now generate the files to the SD card. So if we go to the SD card, we'll now see that we have the files. Let's go here. Here is our audio file, and here is our sequence along with the playlists and our schedules. Now this is again our master controller. We would then need to do the exact same process for our remote. We would go in here and we would select the D, and then we would export to SD card. Now, it is also possible to set various different settings by going up here and right-clicking on the controller name and saying Set Time Master Remote and upload schedules, firmware, and files. But we're going to show you the manual method, which we go directly to the controller and do that. Now, why do we need to do this? Well, you need to have your time set on the controller and also the mode. So if this is 10, 10, 10, 10, we need to make sure that that controller 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 is a master controller. How do we do that? We go into miscellaneous settings, operating mode, and then choose acquire data from SD card acting as a master. Now, it's a little confusing. This says slave here, but it's actually going to be the remote if you are setting up a remote. All right. So you would go ahead, save that, and it will reboot. Now, while we're waiting for that to reboot, let's go ahead and come over here and talk about slaves. Now, a slave, you'll see that none of our HinksPix show up as slaves. You can output data from a controller. In this particular case, we would be sending data from this specific controller to this slave controller, and that slave would be an E131 controller that is not a HinksPix. And again, in this example, it's an AlphaPix Evolution. Effectively, this means that your HinksPix Pro can send the E131 data on behalf to the AlphaPix, or again, any E131 controller, to operate that controller also. As you can imagine, this gives you incredible diversity of configuration, allowing you to integrate both HinksPix and non-HinksPix controllers. Now, this is, of course, an advanced configuration. If you should have any additional questions or problems with this setup, please feel free to reach out to us at HolidayCoro.com/contact us.